Well, welcome back to the Be Unexpected podcast with Jake Burnside and Wyatt Spalding. And today we have former Fremont High School standout and current Southwestern defensive coordinator, Trevor Strong. How we doing?
Doing good, fellas. Doing good. I don't know if I was a standout, but I'll take the compliment.
Well, on your bio thing at college, it says you're an all-state player at Fremont High, so we'll have to roll with that.
Yeah, that sounds like standout to me, man. All state.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
So Trevor, we just talked about. So we went to Fremont High. You graduated a few years before us with our sisters, actually.
Yeah.
And so you maybe want to talk about where you grew up, if you grew up in Fremont, just some things you did growing up, and how you stirred that passion for football and now leading into coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. So, born and raised in Fremont. Was there my whole life until I went to Morningside. Really enjoyed growing up there. I mean, sports was just a huge part of my life. You know, I played football, basketball, baseball, a little bit of soccer growing up. But football and basketball were the two that really I fell in love with. And to be honest with you, I loved basketball more than football most of my life. But I obviously, I'm 5'11", so it just never worked out for me. So, I had a realization probably maybe my freshman year of high school where I was like, I knew I wanted to play college sports, but, I didn't think basketball would be there just from a height standpoint. And so I really dove deep into football, and it's always been a close 1-2, but over the years, obviously coaching, football surpassed it, especially playing in college. But especially my younger years, I thought basketball would be it, but that height thing just never took off for me. So, really enjoyed Fremont. Had some really good influential coaches that really molded me and helped me, to get to Morningside, which was really a launch pad for me in my career. I mean, if I didn't go to Morningside, I don't think I would be where I'm at today. And so, Fremont was, we struggled at times in certain sports, but it was cool. There was definitely times where it felt like our hard work paid off. And, I think, for football, it never panned out. As well as I had hoped for. But basketball was super cool because, I was on varsity my freshman year, but I never played. And so I kind of saw those guys, struggle. And I think we won maybe like 2 or 3 games my freshman year on varsity. And then my junior year, our senior class was like Andy Sajovic and those guys. Oh, yeah. And we won. We were like, I think we were right around 500. And you just kind of felt like we were starting to get somewhere with the basketball program. And then my senior year, with guys like, Connor Niehaus and, that would have been my sophomore year that Sajovic was playing. My junior year was when guys like Charlie Ronan, Charlie Simmons, and those guys were playing. And that's the year we really turned a chapter. And then my senior year, we went 16-3 or something like that. And it was really cool, like, to see where it went, from 4 years before and to be a part of that change. And then obviously they played for a state championship, a few years after that. And so it felt like we were kind of, a part of that foundation. And so, loved growing up in Fremont. Definitely loved getting out too. I think that was a big thing for me, was that I'd been there my whole life and I wanted to try something else. And so that's why I ended up deciding to go to Sioux City and playing at Morningside. So,
yeah, when you say that, when you say all those names, I remember like those, like you guys, like you say Connor Niehaus and then like Garrett Cobb and like those guys. I remember being when we were 5th or 6th grade and like sitting in the front row of the middle school, and like I remember we put our hands out for high fives. It was just the coolest thing. And
it was like the biggest thing to go to the high school game, man.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing tonight? No, we're not going to the movies, man. We're going to watch Trevor Strong and Connor Niehaus playing, man.
Yeah. No, that was special. My senior year especially, like, that was just a really cool, fun group to play with. And we had played guys like Zach Myers and J.C. Moore, like we played at Trinity since like we were in 2nd grade. And so like we had played together for 14 years or whatever it was. And so it was just cool because like those are guys that you literally played with, like almost when you started walking, you were playing the same sport. And just to stay intact, and to kind of see those results your senior year was super cool. So, and yeah, honestly, like our home games were pretty. Once we started winning, I mean, there was a lot of people at those games. Like it was really fun to play in front of. Yeah.
That's one thing with Fremont. I know that when I was like my senior year going through high school, we obviously weren't the best, but one thing Fremont would do, it would always be a fun environment and a good crowd. That's one cool thing about athletics at Fremont.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, you could definitely tell if we were 500 or better. The gym was pretty packed. Like,
Right.
It's like, but yeah, I remember like when you guys were freshmen and we weren't good at basketball, and just like, I mean, obviously you got the best of it being on the team, but just seeing like it grow and the basketball team got better and better. But in football, you guys had some wins too. Didn't you guys like beat a couple ranked teams in football, even though we weren't like the best? We upset a couple teams when you were playing, didn't you?
Yeah. So my junior year, I played quarterback my junior year as well as my senior year. And I'll probably save my senior year when you ask me about adversity, just because there was some adversity there with some injuries and things. But my junior year, we made the playoffs. I think we were right around 500. Lost in the first round at Creighton Prep, but we lost 7-0. It was a really close game. Nobody was giving us a shot in. And then my senior year, we beat Grand Island on homecoming. And that was the last full game that I played in, actually, before I got injured. And really funny, just quick story about that is Grand Island was a powerhouse. They were ranked like second in the state when we beat them on homecoming. But a guy that played for Grand Island, Aaron Roberg, he actually ended up being my college roommate at Morningside for 4 years.
Wow.
And so that was one thing we connected on real early on. And it was like, we had played, we didn't realize we had played against each other really until we got to Morningside. And it's like, oh yeah, you're from Grand Island, you played football. Like, yeah, we played against each other. Like, and we had played in other sports too. And so, and I ended up rooming with him all 4. I was the best man at his wedding. So we talk about that game pretty frequently anytime we see each other. Of course I have to, because he's from the powerhouse Grand Island, but we upset him his senior year. So it's like the one-up thing that I have on him, but.
Oh yeah, I bet. So like you said, you played both ways. Was your junior year the only year you played both ways, or did you play both ways as a freshman and sophomore too?
Yeah, so freshman and sophomore year, I didn't play quarterback. I was playing quarterback for like JV and stuff, but I wasn't good enough to play on varsity at that point. So I think I'll do some more name dropping, but like Evan Harpster was the quarterback my freshman year. And then I think Charlie Simmons might have been my sophomore year. And then junior year, I ended up starting at quarterback. But yeah, I played DB too. And even my senior year, I played safety and quarterback, which was tough. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It was not easy to play both sides of the ball, especially playing Class A football. It's not very common for your starting quarterback to play both ways. And, but that was just kind of where we were at with numbers and things like that, where it was like I had to play on defense. So I was in really good shape that year, for sure.
Yeah.
I bet. I remember seeing you a quarterback, and then like you'd be on defense. Like, isn't that a quarterback? Shouldn't he like not play defense? What if he gets hurt? Then we don't have a quarterback.
Right. No, exactly.
But,
So leading into going to played at Morningside for 4 years, and so did you know going to Morningside, you probably like defense was probably more of your thing, or did you want to play quarterback in college? And what other schools other than Morningside really heavily recruited you?
Yeah. Sorry, my dog's barking in the back. But so my whole life, my whole life I played quarterback, like JC football, junior high, all that stuff. Like I always loved quarterback, loved playing it. And really, like before my senior year started, I thought like I'm gonna get recruited as a quarterback to play college football. But I got hurt week 5 or week 6, right after the homecoming game. I separated my shoulder, and I missed the last 4 games of our season. And so at that point, it was kind of a turning point in my recruiting, where it was like everybody that had been recruiting me as a quarterback was worried. It was on my throwing shoulder. And so, and the thing is that I could get surgery and be like good to throw, but I wanted to play basketball my senior year. And so they said I could rehab it and be back in time for basketball. And so I was like, I'm not getting surgery. Like, I want to play basketball. And so at that point, like everybody that was recruiting me as a quarterback basically didn't pull their offers because I didn't really have any offers at that point, but they definitely stopped calling me and stopped emailing me, you know, and all those things. And so at that point, I kind of had to push myself as an athlete, you know, as a DB that, you know, I was playing quarterback, but I also played DB. So it ended up working out really nicely for me in that sense that it didn't, you know, it was hard playing both ways, but it ended up helping me get recruited because I don't know if I wasn't playing defense, I don't know if I would have been able to go to Morningside.
Playing both ways, if you ever had a son, would you want him to play both ways? Or you're like, no, you should definitely play either offense or defense because here are the consequences of playing both ways.
Right. So I do have a son. He's almost 2. He'll be 2 next week,
Nice.
actually.
Nice.
And
Awesome.
you know, if he wants to play football, that's great. And I think he will. I think he loves football already. You know, it's kind of in his DNA a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if he's playing quarterback, I would probably prefer that he's not playing.
Both ways.
Maybe sparingly, but yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough on the kid, and you know, just too, like you're not getting your full potential at quarterback if you're playing DB, you know, or playing the other side of the ball. With smaller schools, you can kind of get away with it a little bit, but you know, if you're at a bigger school, it definitely takes its toll a little bit.
So with the adversity, like you getting hurt, and just like playing quarterback in general throughout your high school career, what leadership qualities did you learn through your high school and college football career?
Yeah, so you know, I think I was a good leader when I was at Fremont, but I think I became a great leader when I went to Morningside. I really learned a lot from that coaching staff, and you know, everybody that's 18 years old doesn't have it figured out yet anyways, you know. So when I got to Morningside, I definitely had some immature qualities, and just like most guys that I coach right now, you know, you don't have it all figured out, and there's a lot to learn still. And so Morningside was a huge growth for me because, one, those coaches are great football coaches, but the reason that they've won 3 of the last 4 national championships or whatever is they build great men of character, and that's the foundation of their program, and that's what we try to do here at Southwestern too. And so Coach Ryan, head coach at Morningside, I mean, like if I had to pick one person that was the most influential, like in my leadership growth, it would definitely be him. And really just like not even necessarily like a hands-on approach to like teaching me how to be a leader. It was more of just like me watching him and how he runs his team and how he lives his life. And so, you know, they're definitely, you know, sports build leadership, of course. And so there were times when I was playing quarterback where you have to step up. Like if you're losing, like it's on you. You're the quarterback, and you want it to be on you if you're the quarterback. Like that's probably why you're playing quarterback, because you have some natural leadership ability. And so, you know, I definitely, like I said, I think I was a decent leader in high school, but I definitely reached a far higher potential in that category once I started playing college football and was around that staff, you know, and even more so now that I've been in coaching, like even, you know, it grows every year. Like you just learn more, you learn how to work with people, and you learn different personality types and all those things. So, yeah.
So do you, looking back at your pretty great career at Morningside, is there any memories you have, like you were completely humbled, or Coach Ryan or the coaches got on you, and just now like reflecting, like coaching those kids and seeing like, okay, yeah, like I was there, I've been that. I don't know. Do you have any like funny memories kind of like that from Morningside?
Oh man, I have a ton of memories from Morningside, to be honest. Like when I got married, I mean, like 5 of the 7 guys in my wedding were from Morningside. You know what I mean? Like it was just like high school sports are awesome. Loved it. Like loved my experience. But like college sports is just different. You know, like it's just different. You're away from home. And so those bonds that you build with those guys are just a little bit deeper in my experience. And so, you know, I would say that there's a lot that stick out, but I would say that I got humbled probably the first day that I was at Morningside in fall camp. I mean, and we see this all the time, but like every high school kid that gets recruited to play football for the most part thinks that they're a really good football player, right? I mean, you got recruited to play college football, so you probably have some confidence about you. And what we find out is that everybody that is on a college football team was the best player at their high school. You know what I mean? And so I definitely went in thinking that, I'm really good and I'm going to come in and I'm going to be a starter as a freshman. And I was humbled very quickly, and so I ended up, my junior year was the first year that I started as safety at Morningside and played some special teams and things like that. But definitely adjusted my expectations after the first week of fall camp when I was there, because I'm like, these are some grown men. Like, I'm not even close to where I need to be. And so that stands out. And then, from like a coaching perspective, I think that just the daily film work that you do and meetings, like, you're going to get humbled pretty quickly if you've got a big head, and so, I had a little bit of an ego, I guess, just like most freshmen do.
Yeah.
But you definitely, like I said, you'll realize that you probably need to tone it down a little bit, because everybody's really good, especially like they're a powerhouse.
Do you tell your players about your experience in college football? Like the freshmen, they come in like, man, I was really good too, but it took me 2 years before I was a starter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I try not to like, brag about my time at Morningside and, especially in front of new kids or, it's like I tell them who I am, where I'm from and things like that, but I try not to get too deep into it. It's more like those individual meetings,
right?
Like maybe a kid's struggling that isn't getting playing time, and then that's when I break out that story. Like, hey man, like I know how it went. Like I didn't really significantly play until my junior year. Like everybody, has a different chapter and a different timeline, and so there's definitely experiences I had as a player that helped me out as a coach. Like no doubt about it. And so I try to relate as well as possible. I used to always say, like in my recruiting pitches, that I'm not very far removed from playing college football. Like I know what it's like, and now it's like, man, my last year was 2013, which is 10 years this year. So it's like I'm a little farther removed now than I'd like to admit. But
yeah, I bet relating to players, I'm sure, as being a college coach now, is something you're really good at. So back to your adversity, you said you shared. I'm sure you've through college or growing up, but you mentioned something about your senior year, your injury. Is that kind of one of those moments that really shaped you along your journey?
Oh, definitely. I kind of talked about like playing defense helped me get recruited to Morningside, but like I want to say I was like top 3 in the state in a couple like passing categories before I got injured, and so I was getting some D2 stuff and some NAI stuff and some JUCO stuff, and then when I got hurt, it was like it went silent. Like I wasn't getting anything anymore. And so, like, to be honest with you guys and be transparent, like I had to recruit myself to most of my schools. Like I was not heavily recruited by any means. And this is like before Twitter was a big recruiting tool. And like, this was like, I had to send out a DVD still, like Huddle wasn't a thing. Like I was like right before like all that technology came. And so I was kind of in that, like, if you're not big time, like good luck getting noticed. And so like I was sending DVDs out to like every Midwest coach, like just trying to get recruited. And so luckily, like Evan Royick was my center at Fremont, and Morningside was recruiting him super heavy. He was a great player. He ended up playing at Augustana in Sioux Falls Division II. And so he got invited to an official visit to Morningside, like in January, and I still like had no offers. And so I actually tagged along with Evan to his Morningside visit. Like they didn't even really know I was going there. Like I kind of like emailed the coaches and was like, I'm tagging along with Evan Royick, like want to check it out. And so kind of crazy, like they didn't really offer me or anything. And then the night before signing day, Coach Ryan, the head coach, actually drove to Fremont and offered me.
Wow.
Yeah, like straight out of the movies, like knocked on my door. handed me a letter, and was like, we just, somebody that was better than me probably like backed out that day or
Right.
something. And so
Yeah.
I was on their list, and luckily, he offered me the night before signing day. I didn't even know if I was going to play college football or anything. And Coach Ryan showed up at my doorstep, and yeah, I'll never forget it. He drove through a snowstorm to come deliver me an offer, and it was like, yeah, I'm going to Morningside. Like, this is awesome.
Did you kind of know Coach? Like, did you guys obviously kind of had a somewhat of a relationship at this
Yeah,
point?
so when I went on that visit, that's when I met Coach Ryan.
Okay.
But and that was like in probably earlier mid-January, and National Signing Day is the first Wednesday of February, and so like, 2 weeks had gone by, and I hadn't really heard much from him at all, and he ended up driving. And the coach who I told you about from Midland, that was the head coach at Midland for a while that recruited me from Morningside, he's the one that got me in contact with Coach Ryan. Like, he came to Fremont High like a week before signing day and was like,
Wow.
we're kind of interested and, stay in touch with
Yeah.
Coach Ryan type of thing. And yeah, so it was like the day
Wow.
before signing day that when I made my decision. So
It's quite the you hear that from the offensive coordinator, and then maybe like you don't hear anything for a few days. It's like, all right, signing day's in a week. What's going
Yeah.
on? Am I going to Morningside, or I'm not even playing? It's quite the emotions as a 17,
Well,
18-year-old.
it was for sure. Yeah, it was definitely a blessing. And like I said, like I ended up, having a pretty good career there, and it was like just kind of by chance or fate or whatever. And so I just knew in the recruiting process, like my biggest thing was I wanted to go somewhere where I knew we could win. Being at Fremont and being 500 and winning only 1 or 2 games my senior year, it was like I didn't even really care if I was going to play. Like, I just wanted to be a part of like something special. And I knew that when I went on that visit to Morningside that they were on the verge of something. And then my junior year, we played for a national championship, and we lost in overtime. It was a heartbreaker, but still, like, we won 3 conference championships, and it was like I couldn't fathom that when I was at Fremont High, like being a part of something like that. And so that was like my biggest thing about where I wanted to go, was I just wanted to go somewhere where like I believed in the program and believed in what they had going on. So
What what was the culture like at Morningside that made you guys so good and got you to that national championship? 'Cause I assume in college, like, you get guys that they want to play football, they want to play football all year round. Where high school, you get a couple guys that take it pretty seriously, and some guys take it seriously during the season, but not in the off season.
Right.
So what was that culture, especially that runner-up national championship team, like for you?
Yeah, so I would say that the culture at Morningside is definitely a hardworking, blue-collar type program. Honestly, a lot of what I'm going to say is very similar to what we're trying to do at Southwestern, and a big reason why we've been successful the last couple of years. It's not rocket science by any means. Like, it's just guys that buy into whatever the vision is. And sometimes it doesn't even really matter what the vision is or what your hashtag is or whatever. Like, as long as guys are bought in, like that's what it's all about. And so I would say that Coach Ryan and the coaches there do an amazing job of just getting guys to really care about each other. Like that was a big part of like our success, was like we didn't want to let our brother down. Like that was just like instilled in us that like it was a brotherhood, and like a lot of it's like cliche, but like they actually live it. And so it was just like super cool to be a part of it. Like, like you hear all these things like about program building and culture and all these things, but like to actually like be a part of it, and like it's not just like fluff that someone's talking about and they actually do it, was pretty special. And so yeah, like I said, like we're trying to do the same thing where we're at Southwestern, and it all just goes back to like honestly like finding really tough players, like guys that love the game, guys that are passionate about the game. And Coach Ryan does an amazing job of that. Like, he handpicks kids that are tough and can face adversity head on, and obviously recruits good football players, talented football players, but there's definitely a mold there as far as what they bring to the table as far as character. And he's a very faith-based coach, and so he brings that into play quite a bit. And I definitely needed that when I was an 18-year-old kid. You know, like I went to Trinity Lutheran and had faith in my life and things like that, but he definitely helped me grow in that phase of my life as well. And, you know, he's not pushy about it or anything like that, but he's definitely like the Dabo Sweeney type where it's like definitely integrated into the program. And I think that has a lot to do with his leadership style and just his conviction in it, like kind of is a testament to like his program building. Like he's not afraid to talk about it. And that was like respectful, like for us just to see like a guy who was so convicted in his faith and convicted in his football program. And it was like, man, I want to win for this guy. Like, you know what I mean? And so,
yeah, that's probably, I mean, for you know, a grown man to, you know, he's going to share his faith in Christ and his relationship with Jesus. And he doesn't really care what, you know, 18-year-old guys are going to say. He's going to do it and he's going to live it. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
To hear that. And is that kind of now transitioning to you at Southwestern, what is it like what's your, you don't have to exactly, like, what's your recruiting pull to Southwestern, like recruiting on the trail? What are you kind of telling the guys?
Yeah. So, I mean, not biggest, but a big reason why recruiting has been a little bit easier this year and the year before is like winning. Like winning cures a lot of things. And so, you know, people want to be a part of winning programs. And so that's been a big selling point for us is we've won the conference the last 2 years. And I think we're like 26-3 in our last 3 seasons in conference games. And so, I mean, that's a big selling point, like just right off the bat. But I think really what sells kids and convinces kids to come to Southwestern is really like what I'm talking about with the Morningside stuff, like what our culture is. And like when they visit campus, like they really get that family environment and that family feel. And that really all stems from the top. Like our head coach, Brad Griffin, he's an amazing boss to work for, and he's an amazing leader of our program. I mean, just like Coach Ryan was for me, like he's that same constant, you know, convicted, you know, leader that you need and want to believe in. And so guys buy in. And so like our big thing at Southwestern is what we call brick by brick. Like if you follow me on Twitter, like I hashtag brick by brick all the time. And so brick by brick is this simple thing that we let our guys know right when they get to campus is we're going to do the everyday common thing with uncommon attitude and uncommon effort. And like that's what we hang our hat on. And like it's super simple, but guys really buy into it. And it's just an easy, like, who are you as a program? Like that's who we are. Like we're going to be like whatever adversity, whatever situation we're facing, like we're going to give great effort and we're going to have a great attitude about it.
Yeah.
And like that's won us a lot of football games. Like, it's crazy, but yeah, I mean that's like the big selling point, you know, winning and culture and all those things. And then, you know, there's obviously some other things like our academics and things like that too. But
is there a game like this past season or the season before where you saw your team face adversity, but then you guys just like overcame it? It was just kind of like unbelievable how you guys like came back in the game and won or anything.
Yeah. I mean, the one that sticks out to me is Avila University. They're in Kansas City. They're always a tough team. You know, they're in Kansas City, so like they've got a great recruiting area, so they're always super talented. We're in Winfield, which is like 12,000 people, so like it's a little harder to recruit kids here. And so like talent-wise, sometimes we're a little outmatched with them. Like, you know, just as far as like Jimmy's and Joe's. I mean, we've got a great talented team now, but like, especially years past, like they're just always like the most athletic team. And so this year we were down, I want to say we were down like 12 points with like 4 minutes left, and we ended up coming back and winning. Wow. I mean, it was a crazy series. Like basically like we had to get like 2 3-and-outs on defense, like to even have time on the clock. And like we did it. And like our offense had to go, you know what I mean? And so it ended up coming down to the last play of the game. We ended up going up with like a minute left, kicked the ball back to them. And they ended up driving down the field, and we stopped them at the 1-yard line as time expired.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Awesome. Yeah,
it was super cool to be a part of. And so like that was definitely the one that stands out. Like you're down 2 possessions with 4 minutes left in the game. It's like so easy to just give in, right? Like just to be like, man, we tried our best and it's over. But and that's just been built up over time here. Like guys there's just this belief that like no matter what the situation is, like we've still got a chance to win the game.
Yeah.
So I mean that's the big one that stands out for me is that Avila game, and it was early in the season and ended up kind of clinching our conference championship because they ended up basically going 9-1 too, and so like we had like a tiebreaker basically with them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dang. That's awesome.
Well,
So,
a few questions kind of closing up here.
Yeah, real quick.
So,
Jake, I just have one more. Like
one thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Wyatt. Sorry, go ahead, Wyatt.
I just have one question. So, being an assistant coach, and you've been around a lot of head coaches, does it like motivate you and inspire you to want to be a head coach someday?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do want to be a head coach at some point. I interviewed for an NAI head coaching job. When was that? In December. Ended up not working out, and that's fine. But it was an awesome experience just to get like a head coach interview. Like, man, I never really thought that would be possible a few years ago, and so to get that opportunity was really, really cool. And so I definitely have a goal of becoming a head coach at some point. But at the same time, I'm really happy with where I'm at as a defensive coordinator. I'm the assistant head coach or whatever, so I get a little bit of head coach duty here and there, but it's kind of nice to just be an assistant at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet.
Head coach, sometimes he's in these meetings and he's in and out, and it's like I'm in a game planning meeting for football. Like I can focus on the football where he's got to go deal with some other stuff that, there's definitely days where I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm not the head coach, but of course there's that desire to do that at some point. So definitely is there.
Do you get more like one-on-one with the players, would you say, as an assistant coach?
Yeah, I would. I mean, NAI obviously is a small college, so like our head coach also is fairly involved with the day-to-day and one-on-one type stuff, and he coaches the tight ends and things like that. So he definitely gets that. I think at the Division I level, definitely like the head coach is a little more, behind the scenes than most people probably know or think. And so, like I get to be around basically 60 or 70 guys that are on defense every single day. So I'm definitely grateful that that's my office, right?
Nice.
It's pretty cool. So I can't imagine working like in a real job. Like I always joke about that. And our head coach always says like, we're in the toy section of jobs, like it's just always fun. There's adversity and there's obviously tough days and like, we work like 90-hour weeks during the season. Like it's crazy, but the good definitely outweighs the bad.
I bet.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's awesome. Now come full circle. Growing up, I know that like myself when I was little, did you always want to play college football? Did you want to play for Nebraska? And like, did you even in JC football? Like I still had in my mind I was going to go to Nebraska and play in the NFL. But was that kind of like your mindset?
Of course. I think every kid that grew up in Nebraska, maybe not anymore just because of the state of the program, maybe it's changed a little bit, but man, like, growing up, every classmate, that played football, they all thought they were going to Nebraska, and I had the same dream, and I think I listened to your podcast when you were talking about, like, you always just thought, like, it was just going to happen, like, it wasn't even, like, a choice, and it was like,
that's just what you do.
It's like, that's just what I'm going to do. And then it's like you have that realization in high school that like, maybe I'm not going to be a Nebraska football player. Yeah.
Did you guys envision playing at Nebraska more than just like playing in the NFL? Because everyone's like, oh, the pros are so cool, but like
I would say yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I just thought of. Like, oh, I'm going to play in Nebraska.
Yeah. No, that was like the dream for sure.
Yeah.
So
I remember sitting in Lincoln on like Saturdays and being like third and fourth grade, and Nebraska would lose, and I'd get like all like frustrated in my mind. I'd be like, all right, tomorrow noon, Packers versus Steelers, we're not going down. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of funny.
JC's,
yeah. It's crazy like how much looking back like Husker football like fueled my day-to-day life. It's like, and even still like I root for them, of course, but it's just I'm in the same game as them, and so it's like I can't follow it like I used to be able to.
Yeah.
But, I've got enough friends that follow it closely. They just fill me in on everything.
Yeah.
But I do want to say I really like Matt Rule. I like what he's got going on, and I think that he's doing a great job of getting buy-in from the state of Nebraska. With they're going around the state.
Do you guys have
recruiting
the transfer portal
just
rules
his
in
press
NAI?
conference? Like, I think he's doing an awesome job. So.
Oh, sorry, you guys froze. Do you have the transfer portal rule in NAI?
Yeah, still there.
Did you freeze?
Yeah.
Dang it.
Maybe he'll come back.
Maybe. Oh,
You guys good?
yeah.
You good?
Sorry, yeah, I don't know what happened. We got,
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Our last episode, I somehow got logged off. And
Yeah.
then came back
Oh,
on.
really?
So yeah,
back.
it's just he just goes all right, let's keep going, I guess.
Yeah, that was weird. Jake was frozen, and Wyatt, you were still kind of moving a little bit. So I was like,
Yeah, and you froze, and I think I heard you talk. I was like, okay, what happened? But
yeah. Anyways, I'm a Matt Rule fan. That's basically what I was saying.
nice. My question was, do you guys have the transfer portal rules in NAI like they do in D1 or?
Yeah, so we don't have a transfer portal in NAI.
Okay.
We can access the transfer portal. Basically there's a million Twitter accounts that post the transfer portal. There's a million websites, so we can access it and we can reach out to those kids if they're in the transfer portal.
Nice.
But NAI to NAI, the only rule is that they have to basically get released from the school, and so they have to provide their paperwork that basically says they're released from the team. And then we have an in-conference rule that if you transfer in conference, you have to sit out a full year.
That makes sense. Yes.
We can go get a kid from the heart of America, and he wouldn't have to sit a year. But honestly, most of our transfer recruiting is more the JUCOs. Being in the state of Kansas, we've got a healthy amount of good JUCO football here. I mean, it's really probably the best in the country with the Jayhawk Conference. And so that's honestly where most of our transfers come in is the JUCO level, not so much NAI to NAI. A little bit here and there, but not as much as NCAA.
Nice.
Is Kansas, isn't that where the Last Chance U was, the junior college?
Yeah. So that's where Independence is.
Independence, yeah.
Yeah, and so Independence we recruit, and Garden City's been a really good JUCO for us. We've got a lot of kids out of there. I'm trying to think who Hutch was just in the national championship against Iowa Western. Hutch Community College. So I think there's 8 JUCOs here, and so that's been a gold mine for us. As far we try to focus on high school recruiting and really building our program for high school kids, but we definitely have been benefited by some good JUCO players that have come in to fill some holes or whatever. So,
Well, one last question for you, Trevor. So now you're not in season right now, but when in the thick of the season, what do you do outside of football that just kind of keep you going? Because I'm sure it can get, especially in season, be a grind. Like you said, 90-hour weeks and just constant texting, game prep, and all that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, the big thing for me is my family. Basically, any time outside of football, I'm trying to spend with my family. My wife, she's former college athlete, former college coach. She played volleyball, coached volleyball, so she gets it. That's a big reason that we worked out so well is that she understood the college athletic landscape, and so during season, she's awesome. She takes care of everything at home, and so it's she's awesome for our family. And so any outside time I'm trying to spend with her, and then obviously with my son, who's almost 2 years old. So
Nice.
he'll come into the office with me, and he'll hang around the guys, and he'll go run on the field and go to the basketball gym and dribble around and things like that. So it's pretty cool to see him kind of growing up in that environment. But yeah, I mean, obviously when we can, we like to travel. Really like to travel. But now that we're parents, it's good luck traveling.
Yeah.
It's it's definitely harder to do. But and then we get to her family's from Chicago area, so we'll get to Chicago and see her family, and then obviously my family's basically all in Omaha still, so we'll go up to Omaha quite a bit and see my siblings and see my parents and things like that. So, but yeah, and Winfield's a small town, so it's not like we're missing out on a whole lot. So we're just we go to the park with our son or go to the field and throw the ball around or whatever. So pretty low key.
Love it. That's awesome.
Awesome, man.
Well, thanks for joining us today on Be Unexpected, Trevor. We do appreciate it. And something in common, we all Fremont High graduate. You in 2010, Wyatt in 2014, myself in 2015. So thanks.
Sir.
Appreciate it, Trevor.
Yeah, thanks,
Go
Trevor.
Tigers. Thank you, guys.